salutations, my beautiful people, and welcome back to goddamn Caddy's motherfucking Retrospectives! Where we are now at part 3 of the Sly Cooper retrospective, and unfortunately, as the way that this show goes, the final part. Oh, fine, great, yeah, I see how it is, you know what, fuck you, I'm never making another video again, fuck you guys. Being fucking dicks about everything.
Okay, let's recap on Sly 2, shall we? Well, as we established, I don't tend to agree with the huge amount of people that think this is one of the best PS2 games ever made, let alone the best Sly game, but I still think it's a very good game in its own right. That being said, yes, other people absolutely loved Sly 2 on its release, leading to 9s out of 10s all over the board from critics, and believe it or not, the lowest review score I've ever seen for this game was an 8.4 out of 10 from GameSpot. The game also sold around 800,000 copies more than the original, so its success and quality was obviously clear amongst the community. And I think that Sucker Punch realized that too. I mean, it's not every day that you sell nearly double the amount of copies on a sequel to an already successful game, so I think a sequel was already on the cards, especially after the ending of 2. What ended up happening after that on September 26th, 2005 was the release of my personal favorite game of the original Sly trilogy, Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. I mentioned in the Sly 1 video that I played and replayed this game constantly when I was younger, and I know it inside out more than most PS2 games in my collection. I also said that it was the first Sly game I played when my sister got it for her birthday one year, and I played it more than her, stole data slot number 1 and beat the game 100% while she was still trailing behind on 47%.
Now, why I love this game so much, I'll explain later on into this video, because unfortunately, I can't really sum up in a brief intro paragraph as to why I love this game so much as like Max Payne 2 or Abe's Exodus. And why is that? Well, because in practice, Sly 3 pretty much did nothing different in terms of gameplay from Sly 2. And in fact, most people could argue that it detracted from the predecessor in terms of overall length and depth in the whole game. What do I think though? I don't think that. Personally, I think that Sly 3 took everything fantastic about Sly 2, removed anything experimental that I didn't really like about Sly 2, tweaked everything that had potential in Sly 2, and then streamlined it, gave it much more focus and direction than Sly 2, which was the most important thing for me in the last game. And you know what? Sometimes I feel completely alone in thinking that. But you know what? Doesn't matter right now. We'll explain more about that later, so what's going on with the story this time around?
So yeah, after the pretty somber departure of the gang at the end of 2, 3 starts off with a sequence that honestly makes no sense at first. Firstly, we see the return of Sly Cooper and the gang are back together? Wait, there's other members in the group? Is this a prequel or what? Well, no it isn't, because Bentley is in a wheelchair after losing his leg usage. Ah, okay, I'm intrigued now. Anyway, you come up to this horrid creature that you can't fight, and then it grabs Sly and starts crushing him to death. What the fuck, Sucker Punch? First the gang splits up and then your main character begins the next game dying? Oh, this is too much. I can't take it. Either way, this leads on to the true narrative structure of the game, because while being crushed, Sly explains that his life flashes before his eyes, meaning that this is a flashback game. Whoa. In a brief series of things that we already learned in Sly 1 and 2, we end up learning about a new bad guy in town known as Dr. M, a highly sophisticated and horrid old mandrill that was a former member of Sly's dad's original Cooper gang. However, being the jealous and spiteful type that he is, he always felt like a mangy sidekick to Sly's father, and sought to steal away the Cooper fortune all to himself for years. To do this, after Sly's dad's death, Dr. M runs off to find this secretive island where the legendary Cooper vault is supposedly hidden. A huge-ass lucrative treasure trove filled with every single Cooper generational piece of goodness that they ever stole. Only problem? The safe door getting into the vault is impenetrable, and after years of obsessive trying and overly paranoid failing and security measures, Dr. N takes the island over and vows to get in there by any means necessary. And so Sly's mission in the middle of all this madness is to get to the vault and stop Dr. M, which obviously, due to the security measures, will prove to be extremely difficult, meaning that he has to recruit the best gang of professional thieves and experts in their respective fields to work together and get to that vault. That's pretty much the gist. The game is a flashback on how Sly gets the gang back together and how they recruited the best of the best in order to reach the vault. What I love about the flashback setup though is that it isn't clear if the present day is a happy ending. Just remember that this is a flashback up to the events of Sly potentially failing and dying at the end of the game, which would be a bummer and kind of terrible for sure, but the mystery and suspense I actually found fantastic. And the way that the game tells you what is actually building up throughout the story actually really invested me, and by the ending chapters I got really tense to see where this would all go. Also, in the last game's ending, Bentley gets completely conked out and he loses the use of his legs, which we're pretty sad in its own right, may have actually been the best thing to ever happen to Sly and the gang. And why is that? Because from that moment on, every character got closer to each other and they changed for the better. That there was the turning point as far as I'm concerned. The writing and character interactions in Sly 3 I personally thought were perfect, which for some reason, most people didn't actually like. I feel like I'm the only one that liked it in this game. The voice acting was just as great as in Sly 2, but with Carmelitas and Murray's best incarnations as far as I'm concerned.
That does it! I'll floss my teeth with your spine!
And more importantly, I believed that these guys were friends this time around.
This is tense. Sly, you okay?
Right as rain, pal.
They had funnier conversations, they felt more loyal towards each other, they were more playful and light-hearted than in Sly 2. There were more personal issues and heartfelt moments in the story. I mean, Sly and Carmelita, will they, won't they? And then there's Murray coping with Bentley's physical damage and psychological scarring after Sly 2 and him thinking that he was responsible for the whole thing. And then everyone trying to work with old enemies for the benefit of good. It's so much more entertaining and tighter than Sly 2 as far as I'm concerned. And every cutscene was great fun to watch because of that.
I hope you realize that by saving Carmelita, we're only making our operation here more difficult.
Maybe so, but what's the fun in stealing if there's nobody trying to catch you? Besides, she's helped us out in the past.
That, and you've got a thing for her.
And I've got a thing for her. Look, I'll stash this boat. It might be useful for later. You stay out of trouble.
You know, I've been thinking about your appearance.
Look, if you don't got nothing to say nice, then don't say nothing at all. Get it? What? Ain't got no sassy comments, smart guy? Oh, I get it. You got nothing nice to say, so you're keeping quiet. That's real cute. You really got nothing nice to say? That's cold. Listen to the song of your death! The Murray knows no song but the triumphant horn section of his own triumph!
And the enemies? Holy shit, tons better than both previous games combined. Every boss character in Sly 3 was memorable, really damn funny, and honestly diabolical, all with the perfect amount of screen time, build up, and none of them outstayed their welcome into multiple chapters, largely because they weren't connected to each other by the means of any gang, like in Sly 1 and 2. Because there was no overarching gang this time, that meant there were no higher-ups, there were no scrubs. Every boss in this game was a boss of their own turf, and equally as threatening and silly as each other.
When the people come to see me sing, I want to make sure they keep a-coming. Even if they don't feel like it. One way or the other, there be opera fans again. Hey, hey, hey! Okay, sis. I bid you all an exuberant and exaggerated farewell, pilots. Tonight, sleep like geese. And tomorrow, soar like eagles, eh?
I'm not ashamed to rely on my friends.
Who needs friends when you can have servants? Who needs affection when you can have obedience? Why try to convince you when I can simply destroy you?
Nobody touches that turtle but me.
Me pirate flower finely blooms, yet ye'd favor this cripple over me, the smartest man on the seven seas?
With the Tao name, a new generation of kings will be unstoppable.
But she doesn't want to marry you.
She's a woman. She doesn't know up from down.
I can't believe they put that line in a kid's game. I don't have anything to say. As for Dr. M himself, I think he left an impact as equal for me as Clockwork in Sly 1, and definitely higher than Neela in Sly 2.
I'm here to see that justice is done.
Justice? I'm the victim here, defending what's mine from thieves.
Looked to me like you were attempting to murder that man.
That man. Please, you know this is Sly Cooper. You're as transparent as you are narrow-minded.
He wasn't pulling the strings on anything, but proved himself to be the most insane and high-end villain purely because of his intentions and extreme measures he set to grabbing Sly's ultimate family heritage, the most important thing that Sly has had to retrieve so far. And you had to spend the journey working your arse off to get around his shit and outsmart him. As for the rest, Don Octavio, I love him. Captain Lafouille, I love him. General Zhao, I love him. The Black fucking Baron, I love him. The Mask in the Australian chapter, I love... Well, actually, it's kind of lame, honestly. But climbing a giant possessed Carmelita is always pretty funny. Oh, and if you ever decide to play this game, tell me that you didn't find Bentley's opera duet funny.
La 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 la.
La 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 la.
La 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 la.
La la la.
Lop, lop.
La, la.
Lop, lop, lop.
La, la, la.
This is a highlight of the game for me, and when I first saw this when I was younger, I literally died laughing. This is a highlight of the game for me for sure, and it sums up everything I love about it, honestly. And the other characters that you meet and recruit throughout the adventure are equally memorable and overall just joys to watch interact with everyone, especially the Guru. His conversations just crack me up constantly, every single time.
The time for escape has come.
Ooh, da, da.
Thank you, you're too kind.
Fun fact. Did you know that the scene with Sly performing a terrible Italian accent was actually the voice actor Kevin Miller's best attempt at an Italian accent? So they decided to joke about it within the game in a last-minute inclusion. Well, it is shit, to be fair.
So yeah, I loved the story and the characters this time around. I found it so much more fun to traverse through than in Sly 2. But what does that matter? This is a video game, not a book. So how did the game play this time around?
Well, I'm afraid I won't be talking too much about the gameplay aspect because it was actually extremely similar to the second game, right down to the way everyone controlled and the abilities they could perform. The safe house, open hub world and missions, pickpocketing, multiple character swapping with specific missions, higher stealth elements, thief senses, awesome power-up purchasing, it all came back and it was just as great as it was before. However, all of your power-ups had to be bought this time around because the clue bottles were sadly not included in this game. That was kind of sad actually. I loved scoping the hub worlds to find these things, but what makes me forget that and make me feel much better is doing this during the pause menu. And clue bottles weren't the only thing taken out. There were less hub worlds, or less episodes as the game calls them, and it does feel a little less deep than before. But here's the thing, where most people saw that as a hindrance, I saw it as a godsend. This game's length, for how similar the gameplay is to Sly 2, and the story and the character interactions and everything, I found perfect. Like I said earlier, no boss character outstayed their welcome, and neither did the gameplay itself. The story didn't drag in places, the pace kept up. The variety this time in both environments was huge over what the previous games offered, and like I said earlier, this game felt more focused because of that. It felt like the stripped down version of what Sly 2 tried to do, and I applaud it for that.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, before I talk about gameplay, I usually talk about presentation. Completely forgot to do that. What a moron I am.
Yeah, well, visually the game is practically exactly the same as Sly 2, same grounded style and everything. However, I think the environment and theme variety this time around was a little bit more exciting than Sly 2. It felt more like a worldwide journey. You had the tranquil city streets and rivers of Venice, Italy, the luscious jungles and dirty paths on a pirate-infested tropical coast, the dusty plains and red-hot rocks of rural Australia, and so much more, especially in the side areas where certain platforming missions and puzzles took place. Not to mention, throughout the game, time passed throughout the day every time you left and entered the safe house. And where some missions took place at a specific time of day, for the rest of the game, you could be exploring through many different ambiances throughout each hub world depending on the time of day. Like, my god, the sunset in Bloodbath Bay is hypnotizing, as is the nighttime in Holland. It's so relaxing. Fun fact. Did you know that in Bloodbath Bay you can find a poster reading Dev and Karen wedding August 05, which is actually a reference to Dev Madan and Karen Yamagiwa, two Sucker Punch devs, getting married during the creation of this game. How cute. The music, though, I absolutely loved in this game. It's shorter than the Sly 2 score, to be fair, but it's on par in terms of quality, and the instrument usage was a bit more diverse this time, all with extremely memorable themes for each world. I could hum you every stage theme in this game from how memorable it was, especially Bloodbath Bay's different music and Venice's different music. It was so damn catchy and cinematic. Anyway, back to the gameplay. Well, first I'll just say this. Bentley is now in a wheelchair, and it is the coolest fucking thing you will ever see. It has rockets, it has jetpacks, it has stunning things, it has every gadget available from the last game, and you could even pickpocket with it from the magnet on a hook, which was adorable and hilariously satisfying. In fact, even Murray could pickpocket, but he wasn't exactly, what's the word? Graceful. By the way, am I the only one that got a huge kick out of sneaking behind baddies? That bassline that kicks in synchronized with your footsteps was fantastic. Other than that, there were also the newly added Thief Master challenges to replace the clue bottles, I suppose. The challenges were available from the menu after you beat each hub world, and they basically allowed you to replay certain missions with a restriction or gimmick attached, such as a time limit, low health bar, or not being able to be spotted once. Not the most exciting of extra missions, to be fair, but they were still extremely fun and challenging, kind of like the time trials in Sly 1, only with more handicaps and challenges. And of course, Sly 1, every single mission in Sly 1 was a linear platforming challenge, pretty much, that had to be time trialed through, and Sly 3 didn't really have that because of the hub worlds and the open-ended aspect, so it forced you to think outside of the box in terms of how quickly you could dispatch through the enemies or get to a certain point in a specific amount of time. And what was great was there was a hidden treasure hunting challenge for every hub world unlocked near the end of the story, and I found them so much fun. I love replaying these over and over, solving the clues, taking the paces, testing your sense of coordination and skill. These were a great extra challenge. And what's great is that this obviously all added to your percentage, meaning that you could unlock hidden short animations and movies with that percentage, which was a pretty cool bonus for completing stuff.
And like Sly 2, there were also multiple character challenges, specific mission types, vehicle stages, and just loads of fantastic shit like that. And in this game, all of them, and I mean all of them, were really fun. In fact, the only ones I didn't like so much were the pirate ship battles. I mean, it's fun for like the first 2 ships, but then when you get to the 3rd ship and then the 4th and the 5th, I know it's great for money and everything, but geez, it just gets so slow and barren after about 3 ships. Assassin's Creed 4 this isn't.
So yeah, apart from that, the rest of the missions were awesome. You got your Sly platforming and reconnaissance challenges, Bentley missions with gadgets and remote control awesomeness. Oh, I love the grapple cam. Murray's intense fistfights and ball form challenges, they were extremely satisfying. And of course, as you recruited different professional members for the new and improved Cooper Gang, including past villains Dimitri and the Panda King, they even had their own unique missions. The Guru, for instance, could transform at will to escape detection and could possess any enemy to fight, run fast, jump high, and charge into things. Dimitri did all of these deep sea diving missions, which were kind of tricky to control at first, but it didn't take long to get into it, and they were a great change of pace. Panda King battled with fireworks and lock-on systems, which was pretty cool, and Penelope used all of her gadgetry for missions, including challenging helicopter protection missions. And for the first time ever, Carmelita was a playable character with her own brand of third-person shooting gameplay. Again, pretty damn cool, and some of her missions were played to comic effect. Look, I even captured Sly Cooper, but nothing happens. Because the plot demands it! And that's not even mentioning all of the vehicle challenges. The plane battles in Holland were extremely fun and pretty intense when the Black Baron got involved. The RC car bits were really fun, the boat chase was awesome, and there were even additional gameplay elements sprinkled in all the side areas that made you feel more like a thief than ever before. There were these proper safe-cracking sequences that relied on controller vibration to solve, disguise equipping sequences to talk to guards, learn hints, optional dialogues, and avoid detection from guards at the cost of slow speeds. Oh, and speaking of dialogue, there were these parts of the game which offered timed dialogue trees and specific challenges based around that, and I find myself replaying these parts over and over again to get every possible optional dialogue because of how well written and entertaining they were. And chatting with Dimitri and that one Belgian pilot always made me laugh.
Yeah, I suppose you'd have to keep her locked up. After all, if she ever got away, you'd never get a date.
'Tis true, I've a strong personality, but I've never had a problem with the ladies, especially when I've a broadside aimed at their sailboat. Savvy?
Why did the chicken cross the road to France? Because it wasn't turkey! And you see, the chicken's not a turkey or a Turk. It's a chicken! A French hen!
Hey man, you can try, but you'll never capture my essential style. It's like smoke. Ungrabbable and all over the place.
And I think that the last gameplay element I'd like to mention were the parts of the game where you had to search for hidden save combinations in paintings. Oh my god, as a kid this blew my mind. I felt like a proper thief in these parts, and finding the hidden code always made me feel so damn good. I felt like the most cryptic, ravenous, thieving bastard in these parts, and this was the direction Sly should have taken for a 3rd game in the series.
Not to mention, the game was also in 3D! Yeah, do you remember those headache-inducing blue and red 3D effects on things back in the day? Yeah, there were a few of them peppered out throughout this game, and they only appeared in the games where Bentley would mention optimizer goggles, because usually when you go into a dark area like a cave or something like that to do a platforming challenge, Bentley would have to say that it was too dark and you needed the optimizer goggles to go in there, so that then gave you the option to switch the game into 3D for that particular mission, and then you could carry on with the rest of the game. And you know what? Where it is quite a cheap novelty and all that stuff, you know what? It worked surprisingly well, and as a kid, again, it was fucking awesome. Also, you just cut. This is adorable. I'm Sly Cooper, but in 3D. Raccoons.
Another thing that was freaking awesome was the inclusion of a multiplayer mode. It wasn't anything deep, but it was still fun. Cops and Robbers was pretty fun, with one player stealing and hiding loot as Sly, while the other plays as Carmelita trying to incarcerate him. Biplane Duels was exactly how it sounded, pretty fun at the same time. Hackathon was a team-based game with Bentley and Penelope, which was pretty fun, but nothing to write home about. And the same goes for the pirate ship battles. Pretty boring, honestly. But still, the multiplayer aspect was a great idea and increased the replay value along with everything else I mentioned previously.
But does Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves hold up today? Do I even have to tell you what I thought about that? Yeah, it does. I love this game, and where there were a few elements that I was kind of sad they removed, like the clue bottles and everything like that, you know what, in terms of the gameplay, the length of the game, the story, the characters, the more streamlined approach, the more direction and focus, that is what makes this game stand out for me more than Sly 2 did. This game never dragged for me, it entertained me 24/7, and like combine that with all of the fun challenges and everything, yeah, I prefer this over Sly 2, and I think I'm one of the only people in the world that thinks that.
And the boss battles, yeah, they were all pretty good as well, maybe my favorite out of the series. Don Octavio's boss was epic, the multiple forms of the mask boss were fun, but the actual boss was really lame. Black Baron was so much damn fun and very intense. General Sal was a tricky fucker and extremely satisfying to take down. Le Fouet wasn't a mind-blowing boss, but overcoming your reflexes was always a great challenge and very good to do so. And Dr. M, what a bastard. Not as epic as Clockwork, unfortunately, but still badass and fantastic to lay the smackdown on. Overall, this was the most solid collection of bosses Sly had ever seen, I think, and everything is peachy keen. As far as the story ends as well, after many interesting developments such as Bentley dating Penelope and lots of other things like that, the newly formed gang form a hefty alliance and we come back to the present day where Sly is dying. Lovely. Anyway, he luckily breaks away from the beast and then everyone storms the vault and everyone gets a chance to play a specific part, and it's really fun to get through all of these different character challenges, and it gets pretty tricky as it goes on. It's pretty damn fun. And then Sly gets into the vault where he meets an extreme platforming challenge in the amazing Cooper Vault. I mean, look at all this shit. And then Dr. M breaks in after you where you beat the shit out of him and then he shoots at Carmelita. Sly, in the most loyal and crazy thing he's ever done, jumps in the line of fire as Dr. M is left at his weakest. Sly wakes up from the shot but appears to have lost his memory, to which Carmelita jumps onto and tells him that he's her partner in fighting crime. He buys that and then they both escape, leaving the rest of the gang behind and leaving Bentley to narrate the epilogue, which honestly gets to me every time I see it. As a kid, this shit really upset me. Bentley reminiscing over the past, wondering about Sly's motives as he didn't know he lost his mind, all of them finding that he left his gear behind. This shit was extremely heartfelt and I was at my most invested at this part of the story. Of course, the very end of the game reveals that Sly may have been a bit of a cheeky lying fuckface, and Bentley ends the game with,
So while this might be the end of our adventures together, it could be the start of something even bigger. Time will tell. Literally. 'Cause I'm building a time machine to find out.
oh my god, a time machine! Sly 4. I won. Amazing. Mind blown. Oh, and then to top everything off, beat the game 100% and you unlock a Dimitri music video, which is the sexiest and most incredible thing in the world.
Got to keep it smooth. Greasy sweet.
Burst. Germ.
Juice. Who's got the juice? Smooth.
Now, if I had to pick my favorite one, I don't even have to tell you what that is. I said it about 80 times through this whole fucking video series. It's Sly 3. I love Sly 3. Sly 1 I love for its elegant simplicity. Sly 2 I love for its gameplay but not much else. And Sly 3 I love on a... The critics at the time didn't quite agree with me on that front, and they still thought it was good. I mean, they put it on equal par with Sly 1, still ranking Sly 2 as the best game, and even though I don't really agree with that, the fact that this game was rated along Sly 1 and sold 1 million copies less than Sly 2 is honestly, I think, kind of tragic, and the fact that this was the last Sly game that Sucker Punch worked on before going into infamous territory, I think is actually quite sad. But you know what isn't very sad though? Well, if you have a look in the description after this video ends, you'll find a little voting poll that I'm doing. I won't tell you what it is, you'll have to go down in the description and find out. But I'm just going to say this, go down in the description, look at the voting poll, and the voting closes on my next video, which is the 8th of February, I believe. So, well, my next video next Sunday, so yeah. Good luck with that. That should be quite exciting.
So yeah, where did Sly Cooper go after Sly 3? Well, before Sonic Boom 3! 3DS happened, Sanzaru Games made the 4th game in the series, Thieves in Time, which I would highly fucking recommend. And you know what, looking back, even though this game isn't anything new or refreshing for Sly, especially after the hiatus between 3 and 4, you know what, this is a fucking solid game here. I enjoyed it actually more the second time around than the first time. I loved the characters, the cutscenes, and the story, and the way that everyone talked to each other, and the emotional moments and the funny moments, and the boss characters were fucking hilarious, and the visuals were gorgeous, the music was great, and the gameplay is smooth as all Christ. I would highly recommend this game. I know loads of people hate it, but you know what? Fuck it. I think this game is really good. They also ported the first 3 games in HD for PS3, and even better, on PS Vita to play some of the most awesome PS2 games in HD on the toilet. Fucking awesome. There was also a minigame DLC to Thieves in Time, I think, called Bentley's Hack Pack, which I never played, and a few comics which I never read. Sly would go on to become one of Sony's most recognizable platforming mascots, symbolic of consistent quality, and he even also appeared in Super PlayStation All-Star Smash Brothers. Not to mention, he's even getting a fucking movie in 2016, which, I'm not sure about. The voices are fantastic, and I love how they've kept everyone and they've got the original writers of the story to come back and everything, but I don't like the character designs too much. They look a bit too much like real animals, and I'm extremely worried that there will be too much focus on action set pieces that I would rather just be actually playing in a Sly 5 game. Get the characters, writing, and animation spot on, and I think I could get down with anything else. I'll give it a try. But yeah, Sly is awesome. These 3 games are consistently great. I can't recommend the series enough, and it makes me feel great that Thieves in Time wasn't released too long ago, and the movie's coming out in 2016, meaning that there is still a future, maybe even on PS4, for Sly Cooper and the gang. I would love to see more stuff in a Sly 5 game. You sneaky little shit. And he was also in this game. Hello there everybody, and thanks so much for watching the finale part 3 of my Caddy's Retrospectives on Sly Cooper. And if you've watched from part 1, you have taken part in watching over an hour's worth of video content from myself over the last 3 weeks, all on Sly Cooper. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you could get through all that, over an hour's worth of content in 3 weeks, unbelievable. That's well, in terms of the what I upload anyway. So that's pretty amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. And well, obviously you guys know about Sly Cooper being in my collection, so if you go in the description, you should be able to find my Games Grabber collection, where you can find every other game that I've got on the shelf right this second. And also you'll find all my social media links and everything down there: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and all that stuff. And I'm going to link you 3 other random retrospective playlists right here for you, and in the description as well is going to be part 2 if you missed that of Sly Cooper. And basically look around, you should find some stuff. And if you like this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel, because it helps me out a huge amount. Thank you so much. And I'm also going to take this time to give a huge thank you and a huge shout out to my top Patreon supporters. So you guys, thank you so much. Nicole Ganara, Ahmed Al-Mutawa, Tony Pierce, Mohammed Al-Sali, Alan Angert, Salah Tell, Greg Black, Benjamin Peasley, Brad Bird, Kylie McKinnon, Ferocious Toaster, and Travis McCollum. Thank each and every one of you for being amazing, and thank every single one of you at home for watching this video. And if it's your birthday today or watching this video, happy freaking birthday to you, and please remember to stay beautiful.